Hi, everybody. Siobhan Sarna here with SIBO SOS, and from the Microbiome and Gut Rescue Summit, I have Steve Wright with me, a health engineer and a dear friend to anybody with gut issues. He and his business partner started SCD Lifestyle ages ago, before anybody was talking about gut health on the internet. And he was very instrumental, along with his business partner, who we love, Jordan, who helped me in the beginning when I was like, I think I want to do this as a business and tell people about it. And I want to reach as many people as possible. And I want to keep it high quality. What should I do? And and thanks to those beginning days and the mutual love affair we have with Dr. Allison Seebecker, a lot of the foundations that you see today are from those sessions. So I wanted to acknowledge that and say thank you. And it's very exciting to have you here. You have grown and grown and grown as well. And it's great to see you learning about the supplement business and therefore manifesting these special enzymes and prebiotics for us. No, postbiotics. Look at what you used to say. And it's a postbiotic. It sounds so weird.
It's new. It's totally new. It's weird.
Right? This is so highly unusual. And it's just simply not out there. It's not being done, and it needs to be done. So I'm glad you're here to talk to us about it today. So take it from the top, if you would. What's the difference between a prebiotic, a antibiotic, a et cetera, et cetera? Help me out here.
Well, thanks, Siobhan, and I hope that I hope we kind of help people with this emerging science, because it really is emerging science, although it's like 30 or 40 years in the making. But I guess maybe it's just getting to the gut health world. I'm not sure exactly why, but well, look, hey, I'm an engineer. English is not my first choice of study, but the answer to the question is it starts with the prefixes. So we have prebiotic, so it's before. We have a probiotic, so think of that as the current state of affairs. An antibiotic, so that's a negative or against, and then a postbiotic, so post being after. And so, as you kind of mentioned in your email, a funny way and an easy way to remember this is that a bacteria that's healthy or good for us, a probiotic, eats a prebiotic and poops out a postbiotic. So there you go. That's kind of the really funny way to remember it, so you don't get them confused. And if you're ever wondering, like, well, aren't I just getting all the postbiotics I need? Well, not if you don't have the right probiotics, and not if those right probiotics aren't getting fed the what they like to eat, basically, to make those postbiotics. And so that's where I think gut health is going, is how do we orchestrate a healthy microbiome that produces the right amount of short-chain fatty acids, which are these postbiotics. And what happens when it gets all dysregulated? How do we get it back in order? And so hopefully that's what we're going to go through today, because as we've seen from the last 10 to 15 years of supplementation with probiotics, I mean, I don't know how many you've tried, but I've tried at least 40 over the last 10 years. And probiotics, they have a lot of merit. There's a lot of study behind them, and certain strains work really well for certain people. But even the best strains out there, or the best brands out there, seem to only work really well for 30% of the people that try them. It's, when I ask Allison, when I ask any of these gut health specialists, like, what's your go-to? What's the probiotic you turn to the most? They'll name a brand, and then I'll say, like, okay, so how many people love it? It's always 30% or so. How many people does it not really do much? 30% don't notice much, and 30% don't like it. They're harmed by it. And so I think that's what that's telling us, is probiotics are useful, but if you're not getting benefit from them, you might have to short circuit that for a little while and go right to the finished product, or the short chain fatty acid, or the postbiotic.
Okay, so for those of you who are sort of new and just, there's a lot of, new vocabulary, short chain fatty acid, can you give us a definition of what its function is in the gut? And if you've already done it, forgive me. I need to hear it again. And how can we increase it? Can I do it from food? Is it like, some broth I'm supposed to be drinking? How does that happen?
Yeah, so short chain fatty acids are mostly made in the lower small intestine, and the majority are made in the colon, and which is also where like the majority of our microbiome is. And
Right.
so there's like 6 or 8 of them. It's getting a little hazy as far as like where the cutoff line is and how many there are, but acetate, propionate, and butyrate are the 3 most talked about, and that's where you'll hear most things. And so butyrate is what the researchers have been doing a lot of the studies on over the last 30 years, because it seems that acetate and propionate maybe don't play as much of a role and potentially they can be harmful. It's really emerging science, not really sure there. But butyrate was basically focused in on, I think because the colon sites, the choline sites, or however you say that word, basically the enterocytes in your colon, they prefer butyrate for their operational fuel. And when your colon and your microbiome is super healthy and it's working properly, you're making a ton of butyrate. You're making a ton of short chain fatty acids, and your colon cells are operating about 70% of the time off of butyrate. And when they do this, they draw oxygen out of the colon to do it's almost like a ketosis process, but it's not the same. And so they draw it out and they make the colon very low oxygen, which is great for anaerobic bacteria, which is what we want. And it keeps everything in homeostasis. But if we have antibiotics, we have dietary, like lots of McDonald's or, some sort of dietary stuff, we don't know, maybe what we're doing when we're growing up. And we do harm to this microbiome, the oxygen environment can get disrupted, the bacteria population can get disrupted, and then that creation of the short chain fatty acids is disrupted. And that's usually studied, or that's found definitely in IBS, is found in rheumatoid arthritis, is found in asthma, allergies, eczema, almost anything they've studied so far, obesity, type 2 diabetes, type 1 diabetes. And so there's this disrupted production in the colon.
And so you found ways to supplement it, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but is there a way to get it in food?
Yeah, so just eat your vegetables.
Okay.
Fermentable fiber. So back to our prebiotics, probiotics, postbiotics. One of the ways that prebiotics are working so well is that they're preferentially feeding the bacteria more of what they want. So if you drop, I think I've used this before, but if you drop a spoonful of peanut butter on the sidewalk, you're essentially just adding fuel to nature, and nature grows around it. The ecosystem responds to the extra food. And so prebiotics are extra food. They're targeted pieces of food for a more healthy microbiome, or however you're trying to shift your microbiome. So yeah, 100%. A diverse diet, including a lot of fermentable fibers and hopefully even starches, so polysaccharides, things like that. That's what the bacteria love. The issue is when you can't tolerate those things.
Right. Hello, full circle. So that brings us to IBS patients, SIBO patients, and people with an imbalanced microbiome for whatever reason. A lot of the things that you're talking about, we cannot easily eat without a reaction. So is it kind of like which came first, or like the solution is also the problem in terms of being a trigger? And so that's why, and I this is why I love this stuff. Tributyrin-X, which sounds very engineering, by the way, Steve. Like, sounds very sci-fi. So this is the supplement that he's giving us a great deal on today, which we'll tell you more about later, because I want to make sure you guys get the content that we're wanting to deliver to you. But in a supplement form, like, I'm not having to deal with, is the kombucha going to make me bloat? Is the 24-hour yogurt 20-hour yogurt, and it's not fermented enough to get rid of the la 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 la. I mean, I can't, if I drank anything like kombucha or any of these other fermented beverages, or I can barely eat a pickle. I eat pickles but a little at a time, because I do like to diversify the microbiome, and it doesn't make me triggered that much, to the point where like it's a bite. It's only my pickle jar, so I can put it back in the pickle jar, and that's fine. But I know that there still needs to be more done, and I also have, and a lot of people here I know have done the oats test and the organic acids test. Which tell us about that, because I know you know all about that. Can you just, like, a lot of people have probably heard the oats test, organic acids test. What is that test? And I know it can show what those levels are of the butyrate, et cetera.
Yeah, I haven't brushed up on it in a minute, but essentially organic acids are what's in your urine. And so you're testing sort of your metabolites in your urine and sort of what is excreted out. And then luckily there's people way more nerdy than me that spend their time in the lab, and they've worked out all these ratios and algorithms to essentially show ranges that we would expect in a healthy person versus a disrupted person's health. And so on the OAT tests, you can get short chain fatty acid productions and let you know maybe if you're low, if you're high, if you're out of balance on those types of things. So it's one way to look at it for sure. Another way would be to do like a microbiome test and look for short chain fatty acid producers.
Like a stool test. A stool test. Yeah.
You know, it's very emerging.
Let's say we're not going to do any tests. How could we tell that we need to get the butyrate happier?
So literally, this is like short chain fatty acids are like magnesium. Like, are you alive? If you're alive, you need magnesium, you need T3, you need thyroid, you need your hormones, you need short chain fatty acids.
Okay, great.
So they're happening already. The question is, do you have enough of them? And are you able to do the things, pull the levers that would create more of them? And so in an ideal world, everybody listening right now would be able to eat a very high, vegetable, super clean, organic diet and process that. And they could eat fermented, whatever ferment they like. And together between the vegetables and the ferments, we would create a beautiful microbiome. They'd play with the dirt. They'd smell the trees. Like all these inputs would create a great microbiome. But if you're having SIBO, if you have SIBO, if you have IBS, you by definition have a disrupted gut. Your small intestine and or your large intestine are not ideal. And one of the ways that I have helped a lot of people feel better is with restrictive diets, like the specific carbohydrate diet. And then the FODMAPs diet came around. There's lots of other diets that are very oriented towards reducing the fermentable fibers that we would react to. However, there's now studies on FODMAPs that as soon as you start to pull them out, you start to reduce your short chain fatty acid production. And so I think we're actually getting to the point now where we know enough that you want to expand your diet back out as fast as possible. You should not be restricting longer than hopefully 8 weeks. Like you should be adding foods back in as actively as you can. And if you can't, then we need to start to supplement with whatever is needed to begin to tolerate more of those foods. And that's where taking something like a supplemental butyrate, what I've seen be a game changer, like nothing I've seen in the 12 years I've been in this field, trying to work on myself and working with other people.
So do you take it with food?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
But you can take it without as well.
Kind of like enzymes.
Yeah. Yeah. The butyrate. So the majority of your butyrate, or almost all of it, is in your colon. And the studies are not so good when you do a rectal suppository. So they're about split 50-50 on whether it's harmful or good. And
butyrate in a suppository? I've never heard of that before.
Yep. Well, the reason why is because the studies haven't been so good.
Gotcha.
So then they went back to oral, and studies on IBS have been really well. I mean, there's only been like 2 double blinds. There's been one on diverticulitis, one on ulcerative colitis, and one on Crohn's. So for Crohn's, I believe it was mesalamine it was like if you're reactive to it or you didn't respond to it, I'm sorry, then you could take the Tributyrin. In this case, it was sodium butyrate, which is a different type, and but very close to the same thing. And they had really positive results. And so to me, this is a bridge. This is a bridge supplement that you take when your guts, it needs to get back to homeostasis, and it's a chicken or an egg, like you said. What it needs to be, what it needs to be, it can't process, it can't do. And so supplements like Tributyrin-X are a way to sort of circumvent that process and begin to rebuild FODMAPs and histamines and like really cool stuff. Like we had like one person who was like in the hospital for histamine stuff, and months later drank some red wine for Thanksgiving, which like, you know, she's the MCAS histamine crazy person, and that would have never been heard of. So it does really, really powerful things. And she was fine. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, great. Okay, great. Okay. I was like, oh, and did she go back into the hospital?
No, sorry.
The Tributyrin-X and was able to tolerate that. Well, that's cool.
Yeah. So I hope I'm not like doing my engineering thing and making this so complex, because it really is new and emerging, and I'm having a hard time figuring out how to simplify this. But it's a chicken and egg thing where you need it, but if you can't do the things to build it, then you're going to need to probably supplement to get out of the rabbit hole and get back to baseline.
No, I think that's perfectly understandable. The couple of questions are coming in. Svetlana, hi there. Can I eat fermented foods if I had SIBO? I have SIBO. Honestly, it just depends. But think about it. If you have active SIBO, you're already fermenting that food that you're consuming. So like Summer Bach, our dear friend, who's the fermentationist online, who's truly a world-renowned expert in it, when she works with patients, she does not have them do fermented food while they have SIBO. She waits until their SIBO is cleared and then very slowly introduces fermented food, very slowly. So I just wanted to answer that one. And then Dr. Shade's Bitters, so that's Quicksilver, like Quicksilver Labs or something, beautiful supplements. Can Dr. Shade's Bitters number 9 do the same as Tributyrin-X? No, they're different.
Nope.
Right, Steve?
Correct. 100% different.
So remember, bitters helps your bile and helps with digestion. Like to me, the trifecta would be digestive enzymes. I love Steve's, and that Holzymes, and bitters and Tributyrin-X. Like that to me, pop that down while you're eating, slowly and methodically chewing and not consuming too much fluid at the same time. I mean, that's a really nice combination. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, that's great. I mean, do you consider the Ibergast a bitter?
Iberogast. It's definitely a prokinetic, and it is bitter, so I do think it's a bitter. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it definitely tastes like bitters.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing. It has to taste bitter for your body to get that signal, right, and start to create the juices that it needs to create. So a couple more questions. Can you take Tributyrin during treatment, or should you take it after antimicrobial treatment?
There's nothing that suggests that you'd have to wait.
Yeah.
In fact, they're starting to do studies with mice and rats while they take it during the antibiotics. And it's, you know, there was a lot of studies done on probiotics and antibiotics, and like hopefully you'd recover your microbiome faster. And the studies actually showed potentially they don't. You actually have a longer road recovery if you take probiotics during antibiotics. It's kind of counterintuitive, and I don't think anybody knows why. But the early data on postbiotics is it might be doing that oxygen consumption thing to keep the microbiome more diverse and more healthy. So,
cool.
You know, check with your practitioner, but there's nothing contraindicated that I've seen.
I love that you compared it to magnesium. It's just like, it's that easy.
Yeah, and especially,
it's not magnesium, but it's easy. Like, don't overcomplicate. I tend to overcomplicate things when it comes to my supplements and stuff. So just like, it's a relax into it. It's not going to be like, I took it and felt better. It didn't trigger me at all. It's not like I had any die-off or anything. It's just not designed. It's just not like that, right?
I mean, it's a powerful supplement for people who are really low. And so, you know, if you are a super, super sensitive individual, we do say to go one pill every other day and slowly build into it. The majority, not the majority, but 30 to 40% of our early testers and our early, like, a couple 100,000 buyers, not 100,000, 1,000 buyers, were from the histamine and the mast cell activation crowd. And those are some of the most sensitive individuals I've ever seen, other than the multiple chemical sensitivity people. And I would say 95+% of those people did not request a refund, and they are reporting amazing things. Like I said, drinking red wine again, they're doubling the size of their diet or the allowable foods after 30 days. Like really, really cool reports that you shouldn't, don't make this into like you can have these results too, but this is what's possible. And so, yeah, it really comes down to like, if you're someone who's on a restricted diet, you can't tolerate a lot of foods. If you have a lot of histamine or allergenic reactions or symptoms around that, if you have leaky gut, those types of things, like there's never been a leaky gut supplement like this before. This actually, because leaky gut's not just the junctions. Now we know that it's the mucosal layer that protects the junctions. And so, Tributyrin actually helps repair the junctions, and it activates MUC2, which is basically a gene expression that builds more mucus layers. So, things like glutamine, colostrum, I think are going to be in the past as we go forward.
That's cool.
Yeah, not that they're bad, again, but they're just doing like one or two things, whereas Tributyrin-X is going to be doing multiple layers of healing at the same time. The other thing that it's really potent for is diarrhea. Anybody who's SIBO D, IBS D, traveler's diarrhea, we have people now that are like, I've had 20 years of loose stools and I've tried everything on the market and this stopped them. So the research in humans is really powerful for diarrhea.
Wow. That's fantastic information. Thank you for that. So I should have said that in the beginning about your introduction. So Steve is absolutely a leaky gut expert as well as all of these other things, but like people should think Leaky Gut Fix, Steve Wright. I mean, it is definitely one of his specialties, and he's helped thousands and thousands of people pre-Tributyrin-X fix their leaky gut. And I know that, you and I've talked before about how you try more supplements than any person I know, because like you really are an engineer and you're experimenting and you're checking them out and you're doing all this research about them. And so anything, like I'll have what he's having, you guys. Like if he likes it, obviously everyone's different, but like it's definitely worth a try. Like I've tried some seriously weird stuff from Steve's suggestions I would never have taken from anybody else. I'm like texting him, I'm like, are you sure? That's an extreme, of course, and I'm just trying to be light at the same time. So don't worry. But this is, you're being guided very, very carefully and safely here. This is something for you to try. And the advice of like every other day, you can never go wrong with that, right? You can never go wrong with a slow titration up with a supplement. You can do that with, whatever you want, your digestive enzymes, whatever. If you're super sensitive, like I used to be, and sometimes still am, it depends on what it is, that slow and steady is always wise. And of course, talk to your doctor, talk to your practitioner's probably going to be like, oh my gosh, really? This exists? I've got to get it in my practice because it hasn't existed till now. So a couple more questions here. Can you have too much short chain fatty acids? And if diagnosed, short chain fatty acid deficiency and cannot absorb or digest them, can I take this product? I take Creon for pancreatic insufficiency in addition to celiac, SIBO, and Graves. So this is not medical information, but I would love to have you comment on that.
Yeah, so what we do know is that butyrate does help restore the villi. So I think one potential amazing study that I hope we get done in the coming years is a celiac study, because I do believe it will help regrow the villi. You'd have to check with your doctor, obviously, but I don't hear any contraindications so far. That being said, I come from a world where anything's possible. Literally, I've seen most things over 12 years of being at the depths of integrative medicine. And so I've seen Creon do great for people. I've seen Creon be worthless for an enzyme. I've seen, sort of drugs that people a lot of times poo-poo be lifesavers. And I've seen them really hurt people. And so the point is that Tributyrin-X could be helpful or harmful for anybody. We offer a 60-day money back guarantee, and we only get 3% refunds on this product. It's the lowest I've ever seen. It's the most success stories I've ever seen. And so the answer is, I don't know. You just have to try it. But I 100% back this product with my team and with our company. And I think it really is the future. We'll hopefully be rolling out a study later this year on the product. That's how much I believe in it.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. So great question. Will Tributyrin-X be less helpful for those who have constipation, not diarrhea issues? Remember, you can still have, leaky gut and need this even if you have constipation, but can you speak to that, Steve? Yeah.
So, I mean, coming from a constipation related person, you probably already know that you're, in a lot of ways, you're more complex than a diarrhea person. From my experience, it's just that constipation related people have more complexity to their cases than diarrhea specific people. It's a lot more cut and dry usually. And so the answer is yes. And there's a study on butyrate for constipation showing that it's like overwhelmingly helpful. And yet the #1 reported side effect of too much Tributyrin-X or any sort of butyrate supplement is constipation. And so you have to go slow. And what I've seen is if you do the every other day thing for about 2 weeks, then you go to every day, most people who are constipated will end up seeing a bit of a relief in their constipation, but usually an improvement in other related things like food tolerance, allergy related issues, and you'll just be at a lower dose. So somebody who's having loose stools, has SIBO D or IBS D, they might need 3 pills 3 times a day. But a constipation person might only need like 1 or 2 pills a day, and they can be like, holy cow, my energy's up, my sleep's better, I can eat FODMAPs again. And so just know that your dosage will be a lot less, and you should work into it a lot slower.
Very cool. Okay. So Ani is asking, does it fix SIBO, leaky gut, et cetera? And or is it a lifetime supplement?
I don't view it as a lifetime supplement. I could say that I could make that case for like Holozymes or some of the enzyme products or maybe some bitters or HCl related stuff. But Tributyrin-X to me is a bridge. The goal is to get back to eating a lot of vegetables and processing the food you eat correctly. That's the goal. And Tributyrin-X is the way out of that rabbit hole of, now I'm FODMAP free. Now I'm histamine oxalate FODMAP free. I can just drink water and hopefully I survive. At some point you have to be like, oh no, you're not reacting to like everything. Like it's not allergic to be alive. Like we have to get out of this. And so Tributyrin-X is a way out of that. It's not a treatment for SIBO. It does help a lot of people with SIBO, but it's in conjunction. It's not a replacement for anything.
But remember, people with SIBO have leaky gut, right? So just everybody who's watching, this does help with leaky gut. Go slow, talk to your doctor, use it wisely. I just wanted to read a couple more questions. Can you take glutamine as well as your supplement?
Yes, totally.
As well for leaky gut. My issue is SIBO methane with constipation. So would there be any issue with more constipation? So he just addressed that. He just talked about that. So for those of you who don't know what SIBO is, because you've come from a variety of different sources into this session, it's small intestine bacterial overgrowth that my book happens to be on. Hello, thank you, Just Out. Thank you, Random House. And it is when bacteria from the large intestine ends up in the small intestine and it overgrows. And there are lots of reasons why, from opioids, that could even be like 1 dose of opioids after dental surgery, to adhesions from surgery, to injuries, which is internal scar tissue, to food poisoning, even if it was decades ago. Get the book, it explains it. And when it overgrows in the small intestine, it does cause leaky gut. It causes bloating, constipation, diarrhea, alternating constipation, diarrhea, B12 and B vitamin imbalances, iron imbalances, rosacea, restless leg syndrome. I've had speakers talk about how they theorize that it impacts fertility. Interesting. So if you didn't know what SIBO was, and we're talking about it like it's, a $5 bill, I just wanted to mention that to everybody. Would it help people with small intestine diverticulitis, which is also an underlying cause of SIBO? The bacteria gets stuck in the pockets.
I believe so. There's one study in humans on diverticulitis, and it seemed overwhelmingly positive. It was only 73 patients, but that's a decent sample size. Yeah, so I would say 100% to Crohn's, diverticulitis, ulcerative colitis, any of these inflammatory issues. The data so far is yes, orally. And again, there's a case to be made about what type of butyrate you're going to take. We've gone with Tributyrin-X because the safety data in humans has gone up as high as 43,000 milligrams a day in a cancer study. And,
oh, wow. This is 500 milligrams per cap.
You'd have to eat the whole bottle.
Yeah. Yeah, I got you.
So whereas sodium butyrate and some of the other types of supplements out there, they don't have the safety data behind them. And then there's some people can get concerned about the type of sodium or the amount of sodium that they would be ingesting. And so basically I partner with a scientist out of Spain who came up with this purity grade, because 99.9% pure. And then the patent pending soft gel basically helps us try to get it to the lower small intestine and the colon, which is hard to do with sodium butyrate because sodium butyrate is absorbed much quicker in the upper small intestine.
Oh, that's cool. There's so many applications for that soft gel then. I didn't realize, you told me and I forgot. I didn't realize that that was such a breakthrough soft gel. That's super cool.
Yeah, it really is. And for the most part, it removes the smell. If you've tried a butyrate supplement in the past, you know that they're notoriously stinky. And so, I mean, this doesn't smell like lemon and roses, but as far as supplements goes, it's definitely in the upper quadrant of not smelly.
Well, the other thing about supplements that smell is you do have to remember that actually means there's a certain level of potency there. Right. So keep that in mind. I'm just checking for the link. Oh, I just want to make sure I'm giving the right link, you guys. Steve has given us a really, really nice discount on Tributyrin-X. And well, I'm trying to put so it didn't go live on Facebook, basically, you guys. And so I'm going to be taking this recording and putting it in the Facebook group and sending it out in the email if you want to see the recording. And so I also don't have my helper behind the scenes, so I'm doing this all myself, which is fine. But the link that I just put in there isn't right. So if you go to SIBOSOS.com and go to shop, there's a special discount in the link there. You know, you'll see it. As a matter of fact, I'll share my screen. Thank you. Steve, while I'm doing that, what else do you want us to know?
Well, people are saying, like, you know, can I take this along with glutamine and those types of supplements? You totally can. You know, is this right for methane dominant? There's been no studies on it. I have no idea yet. I haven't had like 30 people with methane take it in a row and tell me what their experience is, so I can't say yes or no. Again, there was a study on constipation and butyric acid supplementation. It was a very positive study. However, my experience over the last almost 6 months and over 1,000 buyers of this supplement is that constipation is more complex than somebody who's IBS mixed or SIBO mixed or diarrhea specific. So just know those things.
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Regardless, the directions are kind of the same. Like, go slow. Everybody has their own specific dose, you know, to really have a breakthrough. And you know, that's one of the reasons why we have a health coach on our team now who can walk you through your own dosing. We have our Facebook group where we can walk you through your dosing. I'm active in that as well.
Oh, good.
Yeah, because yeah, I mean, you know that everybody.
What's your Facebook group called?
Just Healthy Gut Supplements. It's for buyers only. We just needed to limit it, and we do a lot of sort of dosing questions and, you know, other sorts of informatory Q&As and things like that on all the different supplements.
Okay, cool. So thanks Pauline for helping me. So Pauline has just put in the chat the proper link, and it's right there. I'm not going to read it as a really long link. Use coupon code SIBO TRIX for $15 off, free shipping at checkout until February 23rd. And then also, I'm going to share my screen, guys. And, you know, there's a great return policy if you're like not into it or you're not convinced that it's for you. This is not about like talking it into something. Can you see my screen? Is it the SIBO SOS?
Yep.
Thanks. So you go over here. So it's SIBOSOS.com. Go to shop, scrolly downy. There you find it. Here's the coupon. Click to your heart's content. Did it go to the right page, Steve?
It did. Yep.
Hooray. Giving us a nice, generous week. Thank you. And $15 off. You can do 6 bottles, 3 bottles, 1 bottle. It's cheaper to go with more. It's up to you. 60-day guarantee and $100, and you get the free shipping. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Plus, it talks about it. Good picture.
Yeah.
Etc. People having fun at a party. Aww. Okay.
Yeah, I think what people need to take away from this is, if you're doing most of the things that Siobhan is already talking about, or you've tried them and you're one of these hard cases and you're just like frustrated or annoyed that Megaspore is a great probiotic, but it doesn't fix everything. And if you're taking it and you're just not where you want to be with your leaky gut, it's probably not the answer. And I'm not saying another probiotic is or not. I'm not saying you don't have to stop it. There's a lot of other reasons to take it. But something like a butyrate supplement like Tributyrin-X could be your way out of what's happening, because it's again, short-circuiting everything else we're trying to create. And so I look at it as a 6-month, maybe 12-month bridge, depending on how messed up your microbiome is, to getting out of whatever you're stuck in.
So when I was first talking, so this is just about hang in there, and you feel like you've tried everything. It hasn't worked, perhaps. Believe me, that's why I wrote this book. That's why I do this work. So when I had one of my first appointments with Dr. Allison C. Becker, international SIBO expert, and we were talking about my case, and I was like, oh, I'm really tired of this. It's so expensive, and la la. I said to her, like, how long do you think this is going to take? Hold on for a second. And she said the following. Well, I see, a tough case like yours, in order for you to feel really normal, and you've got your food down and the leaky gut is healed. She said 4 years. I freaking practically fell out of my chair, because of course this was in the beginning of my process, and I was still the girl who thought I was going to take 2 weeks of rifaximin and be well. Lo and behold, through this whole process, it turns out I have old Lyme, old Epstein-Barr virus. I have mold exposure for 20 years. I mean, when we pulled the swab out of my nose, there was black on it. I thought, oh, that's dried blood. I don't have mold. Haha. Yeah, the mycotoxins were through the roof. So this is, and I would never have been tested for mold or Lyme, and this was me going, that's everyone else, not me, whatever my ego was resistant to, because, whatever my brain was doing. So she said 4 years. I'm just saying it's not necessarily 4 years for you at home. I'm just saying there's a process. You need to, work a plan. It's a mindset, blah, blah, all the stuff no one wants to hear. But if you can have tools that are reasonably, not outrageously expensive. I had someone tell me about something that they just bought that was $8,000. And she wasn't sure if it was going to work. Bless them. I have been that desperate before. Steve, I know you have been that desperate before too.
100%.
100%. Here's my suggestion. If this is resonating with you, give it a try. You have the 60 days refund policy. I trust Steve. I trust what he knows. If it seems like, gosh, I've tried everything else, I've never even thought about a postbiotic. I've never really thought about beyond. I didn't even know that there was something beyond glutamine for leaky gut. Here's something that is known to work with the mucous membrane. I do absolutely. I probably went too fast, Steve, because I didn't do the one every other day. Sorry, but I personally, fortunately, didn't experience anything uncomfortable, and I am super sensitive. I really do notice a difference, and I'm very intuitive about things. I will reach for even a prescription, and if my hand pulls back and I'm like, it might mean just that's not for me that day or in that moment, or it might be nope, sounded good at the time. Nope, it's not gonna work. that's just like something I've developed. If this intuitively and logically is sounding good for you, I say give it a try. What do you think?
I think that I'm just most happy that you're actually using it, because what y'all don't know is that, yeah, Siobhan and I go back many, many years, and I have sent her many, many products and or many texts or emails about various things. And she is so intuitive that she will take in a lot of opinions and really sift through those intuitively and only try a very, small portion at a time. And so I always like it when I get a win with Siobhan, because she's like really hard to get a win with. She's
Okay.
picky.
I'm super
in a great way. In a great way.
Okay, so here's something I hardly ever show. Okay, so you see all those supplements? Thank you. Like, and the rack of clothes is for my TV show. So welcome to my studio, you guys. There's a bed behind here, and someone was like, "Do you want to show a bed?" I'm like, "It's not porn. It's fine. It's my guest bedroom." So I put up the curtain. Anyway, it was adorable when they said that. I was like, I'm using it as a table. It's fine. Anyway, is it available in the UK, Steve?
Yes, we do ship DHL international. Obviously, ice storms and the pandemic and everything are slowing all international shipments down. So it can take up to 4 to 6 weeks. I would say it's probably going to be less than 4 weeks at the moment, but just know that shipping speeds are a lot slower internationally right now. Okay. And yeah, I think the takeaway is like, look, I personally, Siobhan can attest to, I'm just always looking for the breakthrough. I don't like incremental improvements. I don't like going slow. I don't like people being in pain around me. I want them out of pain. And I like focusing on stuff that makes a big dent, basically, in whatever you're dealing with. And I've never seen anything like this. I mean, I really love our HCl guard. I really love our holozymes, but those are innovations on what is. And those are important. Incremental gains are a big deal, especially when things start working for the first time. But breakthrough ideas are kind of rare, and this is one of them. There are other products in the market. If you don't try ours, try someone else's, but please don't write off the postbiotic group of supplements for you if they don't work. There are significant differences between a product that is Tributyrin liquid and a Tributyrin powder. There's a lot of Tributyrin powders out there that are full of fillers, and they're only about 30% Tributyrin by weight. So just know what you're buying. You can test them. I'm all for whatever works for you. There's a lot of sodium butyrates. This is a different type of supplement. And again, they have a lot of data behind them. They work as well. You'll typically just need a higher dosage. And again, for somebody who has lower intestinal issues into the colon, sodium butyrate is going to get absorbed higher. So that's why we went with the Tributyrin version of butyric acid. So the word right now, I just want to get out there is like, look, short chain fatty acids might be that key. And I hate putting so much pressure on something, but if it is like magnesium, which it's really looking like it is, without this, you can take every other supplement we've mentioned on this podcast that my shelf is full of and Siobhan's shelf is full of, and I've tested and tried, and it won't matter because you can't drive the oxygen content in your gut down low enough to begin to rebuild the microbiome. You're not going to be able to close up the leaky gut and keep it closed, as well as slowing down the motility or speeding it up, whatever it might be that you need to do, without short chain fatty acids. And butyrate appears to be the key. We'll know a whole lot more in about 10 years. This is like, I don't know, maybe like 7 years ago when it came to probiotics, and Megaspore wasn't even out yet. We didn't even really have the initial data. I think Align was like the best probiotic that Allison was using back then. She still loves it. VSL3.
Yeah. I'm just reminding myself what it smells like. It's fine. I have tried butyrate that stunk, and I couldn't do it.
And I would say the second best product on the market would be Pure Encapsulation's Sun Butyrate. It's a liquid version of Tributyrin-X. So they put their Tributyrin in a liposome capsule, a fatty capsule, to protect it from stomach acid. We just put ours in a gel cap.
Okay. Does so would do you think that it would impact SIBO diagnostic testing?
I doubt that it would impact that, but of course, with all diagnostic testing, normally you're asked to stop your supplements within like 2 days or something. So just follow those directions.
Yeah. And then so we did that. What about fatty acids? Didn't understand him either time he said it. Peggy, clarify for me your question. Like re-ask the question, Peggy, if you don't mind. What about fatty acids? So have you been here since the beginning? Because we've been talking about that. So are you saying like short chain fatty acids, which is kind of the topic of the whole thing? Does butyrate support action? Oh, Peggy is saying, what fatty acids are you doing, Peggy? This is fun. Does butyrate support action of the prokinetic, or is it instead of? They're different.
Yeah, it's in layered in conjunction, because most of the prokinetics are going to be starting from the stomach area, the lower stomach area. They're going to be trying to kickstart that peristaltic wave, or try to force the cells into kind of being a little bit more Dancy-like or something, a good way to put it. Butyrate's going to be working from a little bit layers deeper and sort of hopefully lower in the intestine.
Okay, I need to take a breath. So remember, a prokinetic is what's moving the migrating motor complex to sweep out the debris of the food that is going to feed the bacteria to cause that overgrowth. And if it doesn't have that sweeping motion, it can lead to SIBO. So it's different. So I get it now, Peggy. Thank you.
I take molecular hydrogen every day as well, the little tablets. So you can take it right along with it, Mary.
So that's Mary. And then Peggy is just saying she's taking MCT powder in beverages. Is that a fatty acid? Okay, can you just help us with the terminology? Thank you, Mary and Peggy, and everybody who's asking great questions. Thanks.
Yeah, and this is complex. Like, trust me, I've been reading the same journal articles for like months now, still trying to wrap my head around this. So
yeah, it's hard.
When it comes to fatty acids, there's long, medium, and short. So we've been talking about short chain fatty acids today. Those are built or created mostly by the bacteria pooping out them, if you want to talk about it that way. It's just easy to remember, in the colon. They are highly unstable. They're very hard to deal with. They're not really found in nature much because they're so unstable. Medium chain fatty acids, or MCTs, MCT oil, are different combinations of fats, normally like 8 to 12, up to maybe 16, depending on where you draw the line. The ones we're talking about are like 2-chain, 4-chain, things like that, fatty acids. So they're much shorter. So medium chain fatty acids are just smaller in size. They're absorbed. They do different things. They're not the same. They can be used in conjunction. And there's been one study on butyrate supplementation for ketosis, and it's much more ketotic than MCTs, actually. It's kind of a cool new emerging area.
So someone's asking about something a little bit different. So we're going to just time out on the Tributyrin-X for a second, but be sure to find the link in the chat, you guys, for this like crazy discount. That's the lowest price in the market for this, thanks to our lovely Steve. And so in the book, Healing SIBO, and on the webinars that we've been doing in Facebook Live, and I'm working on getting Dr. Mark Pimentel to also come to our Facebook Live, there is, as you may know, if not, here's the announcement, a new breath test that will test hydrogen sulfide, ding, 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 hydrogen and methane gases. It's called TriaSmart. It's by Gemelli Labs, and it's phenomenal. It's in the US. They're working on expanding it. But this is also the lab that Dr. Pimentel created to also help patients with the IBS SMART test. So bigger picture here, if you're concerned about like, what is my underlying cause? Do I have post-infectious IBS from food poisoning? IBS is SIBO, SIBO is IBS. Then you can get a blood test. You don't even need a doctor's script. You can get 25% off through the SIBO SOS website. Go to shop. You can find it there. So if you guys are like, do I have SIBO? I'm not sure. I wonder what my underlying cause is. I'm singing this from the mountaintops that there are tests available, and there is a new test that will test all three, and it's called TriaSmart. And thank you to Dr. Pimentel and Gemelli Labs for that. So the other day I saw this post on Instagram that like a little crazy, and one was this famous dietitian, and she was like, "Can we please stop pathogenizing IBS?" And like all these people are like, "Oh yeah, thanks, I agree. It's too pathogenic and a little bit." I'm like, "Are you freaking kidding me? What you just did was set it up so everyone thinks all they need to do is a low FODMAP diet and be on it for the rest of their lives." It made me a little upset. Sorry. And then there was another one that was like, "Here, breaking news, IBS is SIBO, SIBO is IBS." I'm like, that is what I've been screaming from the mountaintops ever since I started this project. Thank you very much. So, sorry, I'm on my soapbox.
Yeah, FODMAPs are not bad. And I mean, think of
there.
People are just being lazy, and I get it. I want to be lazy too. I am lazy. But low FODMAP literally means you're not without FODMAPs. You still have all kinds of FODMAPs in your diet. You can't get rid of them. In fact, if you did, you would kill your microbiome real fast. That's what the studies show. So the low FODMAP diet, I think, is going to fade away in the history of IBS treatments. It really is. I do not think it is the answer. You're creating a dysbiotic bacteria by the week that you're on it. And so I understand getting out of pain. We got to get you on pain, but there's better ways.
Well, I didn't realize this is part of why I did the summits and did the documentary and wrote the book, is because there is confusion about this exact thing. So if you are, if you really think out there in the world, a lot of you don't think that because that's why you're here in this community, because you figured this out. If you think that the only answer by going to a gastroenterologist 7 times the average visit is to doctors before you get an IBS diagnosis, and they're looking at you going, well, just do here's a sheet, here's a Xerox copy of a low FODMAP diet. They don't even tell you about the Monash University app. And you probably have IBS. What happened to me was they gave me an antidepressant and told me to run 3 miles. It's in the book. And then I was like, what? I had to have a girlfriend tell me that she did this crazy breath test and was on this intense antibiotic. And that was the first time I ever heard about rifaximin, and she couldn't remember the name. And it's all this big, long story. But there is a test that can tell you whether or not you have the antibodies from food poisoning, which is so prevalent in the world. And the food poisoning that I had that started it all was when I was 5 years old. So please, 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 if you're curious, if you want to get to the bottom of it, get the tests, find out. This is very obviously SIBO and IBS oriented, and a lot of you are here just because you're trying to fix your microbiome and you don't have that issue, and that's great. But there are answers, and there's a lot of hope. This is part of it. The tests, TriaSmart and IBS Smart, part of it. The book is part of it. The book is right now on sale at Amazon for $18. It's usually $20. And what cracks me up is this is the book I wish I had 5 years ago. And it's less than the price of a bottle of a supplement. And I've done like a lot of money in the summits and in the documentary. And I'm like, it's all right here, people. So you guys have your marching orders, lots to think about. Steve, thank you so much for being here. Really appreciate you. Thanks everyone for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Hope we helped some people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you'd like more support, come to the SIBO SOS community. Go to SIBOSOS.com. Go to shop. You'll find the Tributyrin-X there, and that the discount is going until the 23rd of February. Today is February 16th, 2021. Even after the discount is over, it's still fantastic in terms of a value. Christine, yes, you have helped some people. Thanks, Lords. You're welcome. We really appreciate you all so much. And Steve, keep up the good work. Steve also makes a phenomenal digestive enzyme and a phenomenal HCl product. How can I find those? Oh, wait, you can find those on SIBOSOS.com too, also with some nice discounts. So I really appreciate you guys. I know we do try to put it both in Facebook and in Zoom because not everyone's on Facebook. And today Facebook let me down. It wouldn't let me go through. Could have been operator error, who knows? But we will, if you guys missed some of this, we will be sending out the recording via email. So I'm glad you're on the list. And
buy Siobhan's book. If you haven't bought the book, buy Siobhan's book. If you're listening to this and you haven't spent $20 to support her, I can already tell you, since I own not every digestive book, but I literally buy the textbooks plus all the authors' books, that what you'll find inside that book, it can't be found anywhere else.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you. It tells a lot of my story, but I tell the story in a way that's motivational, not just about me, because I don't think people really care about people's stories unless there's a lesson, or unless it's so like interesting. Like I was in the Sahara Desert and, you know, an eagle came and fed me like a baby bird.
Was that The Alchemist?
Something like that. But it is getting really nice reviews. And if you have it already and you feel inspired, please do leave a review on Amazon. Right now it has 5-star reviews, and I really appreciate that, because it does help with the search engines and will help other people. And I do not want anyone to go through what I went through. And the time, the anguish, the money, the stress, and the symptoms and the condition itself. I don't want that to happen to you. And that is why I do this work. And that is why I was sitting there, I'll never forget, in my signature pink bathrobe in my little office off the kitchen. And I was just staring at my computer, Google search after Google search. And I literally did say to God and the universe, look, I'm not making a bargain with you, but I do want to point out that if you help me here, I will tell the world what I learned. And that is what I have been doing. And it is labor of love. And I'm delighted to do it for everybody, because seriously, you all have missions to accomplish in different areas. Maybe you're a teacher, a mom, a dad, a sister, an aunt, a baker, whatever it is. You guys have things to do. And this is a condition that is so lifestyle debilitating, as you know so well, that, you know, I want to help you accomplish what you're here to accomplish with joy and without adversity. So that's my prayer. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, everybody. We'll wrap. Take care, everyone. KH, I'm going to answer your question. All right. Doctors say that you don't see why they should use the IBS Smart. How will it affect their treatments? That's such a question. You will now know, as I did, whether or not you need to take a prokinetic. And I was very inconsistent with my prokinetic. And once I took the IBS Smart test, and realized I had the antibodies. Number one, I was relieved to finally find my underlying cause. And number two is I was now very religious about my prokinetic. Oh, it regulated you. So that's awesome. I only take one a day, but it has not constipated me worse than what I was. It has regulated me. Thank you, Stephen. So thank you to Nicia, who has just said that behind the scenes for Tributyrin. That's awesome. And KH, I hope that helped. Oh, thanks, Marianne, for buying the book. Awesome, you guys. Awesome. Love you all so much. Oh, thanks, Janita. I appreciate it. Thanks, Vicki. Tell Dr. Schulman I said, hey, and be well. I really am saying goodbye now because I have to go get ready for my show. Okay. Love you. Bye. Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.